In the first video about game theory, you learned about its elements like set of players, set of rules, and set of outcomes. You were also presented with some situations in which game theory could be applied. Now in this second video, we shall define and describe the different classification of games. There are numerous classes of games and we shall discuss only three. First, a game could be simultaneous or sequential. Second, a game could be a perfect or imperfect information game. And third, a game could be complete or incomplete information game. Now, these classifications are not mutually exclusive. So this means a game could be simultaneous that is perfect and incomplete, or it could be a game that is sequential, perfect, and complete. Now let us differentiate a simultaneous game from a sequential game. A simultaneous game is a game in which each player has only one move and all these moves are done simultaneously. An example of this is the rock, paper, or scissors game, commonly known as bato-bato pick in the Philippines. In here, each player has to show their strategies at the same time. Another example would be the card game 1, 2, 3 pass and the prisoner's dilemma scenario, which was presented in the first video. In the prisoner's dilemma scenario, it is a simultaneous game because each player or suspect has to make a decision separately and at the same time. On the other hand, a sequential game is a game in which no two players move at the same time and players may have several actions. An example of this game would be tic-tac-toe and chess, in which each player show their moves alternately. Now let us move to the second classification of games, perfect information versus imperfect information. Now a game is said to be of perfect information if each player, when making a decision, is perfectly informed of all the actions that have previously occurred. In other words, a game is of perfect information whenever all events in the game are shown to all the players. An example of this game would be Monopoly, in which each player's moves are seen by all the other players in the game. Another example would be an open auction. Regardless of whether the bidding process is simultaneous or sequential, the game is of perfect information because each player can see the amount of bid from each player. This is because the auction is open. If there is at least one event hidden for some players, we say that the game is of imperfect information. An example of this game is the games of the general, and it is a board game like chess, but the pieces can only be moved forward, backward, left, or right. The board pieces represent a military ranking. At the beginning of each game, each player shall arrange their own set of pieces in their own preference. This is the reason why the game is of imperfect information because the placement of the pieces is done secretly. Now also, most card games are considered imperfect information games. On the other hand, in an incomplete information game, players may not have common knowledge on payoffs, on who the other players are, on what moves are possible, on what opponent knows, and what the opponent knows that you know. In other words, some players may have private information. An example of this would be auctions, since a bidder may not know the valuation of the other bidders. Another example would be the race for a COVID-19 vaccine. A pharmaceutical company may not know some true information about the development accomplished by the other companies. Now you have a clear idea of the different classification of games. The next video shall discuss the normal form of a game which is utilized in analyzing simultaneous games.